Could JJ Redick join the Pistons this summer? A report dropped this morning which cited Redick as a potential candidate for the Pistons' vacancy in the front office. We're going to talk about that, as well as some of the other candidates in just a minute.
Lane, sky's a jam. Dynamite dunk and the crowd loves it.
Back to Pistons Intellect. I'm your host, Jack Kelly. You can follow me on Twitter at Jack_Kelly_313. And if you're feeling so kind, as always, please hit that subscribe button. We've got you covered all off season long with all the Pistons news you need as it comes. So today's episode, pretty simple. We had somewhat of an update with some new candidates for the Pistons president of basketball operations position. And I was reading an article this morning from my friends over at Detroit Bad Boys of SB Nation. Sean Corp, the managing editor, put together an article sort of putting together the pieces of information over the past couple of days about some of the new candidates for the Pistons vacancy in the front office. I'll put the link in the description if you go check out. The article kind of drew from The Ringer and Mark Stein, who's a longtime NBA insider. Just some pieces over the past few days where there's been mentions of some candidates for the position in the front office. And I think where we'll go first is the reports from Mark Stein. So in Sean's article over at Detroit Bad Boys, the first name he mentions, which to be honest is the candidate I'm most excited about, is Tim Connelly. Tim Connelly is currently the president of basketball operations for the Minnesota Timberwolves. He joined the Timberwolves, I believe, 2 off seasons ago. He made that Rudy Gobert trade. So that off season, he joined Timberwolves. He was with the Nuggets prior, where he was instrumental in building the Nuggets team we see today with Nikola Jokic, Aaron Gordon, with Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. He played a big hand in putting that team together and oversaw all basketball operations whilst that team was coming together. So Sean writes, and I'm just reading this here straight from the article. Mark Stein reports that the Pistons would naturally have interest in Minnesota's Tim Connelly should Connelly exercise his opt-out clause amidst ownership turmoil with the Timberwolves. So for those that aren't aware, there's been a thing going on with the Timberwolves in the past month or so where I think Alec Rodriguez and Ma Law, they joined together to buy a majority stake in ownership from Glenn Taylor, who is the old Timberwolves owner. And then basically what's happened, I'm not going to get into it too much, but Glenn Taylor's decided, he basically said that Rodriguez and Law don't have the necessary funds or that kind of thing, can't get the necessary funds to buy the stake of ownership from him. So Glenn Taylor, I think it's a bit of a legal thing going on at the moment, but basically the ownership's up in the air right now and there's kind of instability with the franchise. So basically for the Pistons to have a chance, this seems like a bit of a long shot, but I wanted to talk about it because I think Tim Connelly would just be the most ideal. Like, he has a proven track record. He's been a part of the Nuggets and their rise and building that team. And now he's part of this Timberwolves team, which he hasn't had as much of a say in building, like drafting their young pieces, but he's been there the past 2 seasons. And obviously we've seen them just, they're on the rise completely. So if the Pistons actually have a chance of getting Conley, he would have to kind of opt out of his 5-year, $40 million deal, which he's currently in the second year. And the reasoning here would be that, like I just mentioned, there's instability in the franchise, there's turmoil in ownership and the people he's returning to. So maybe he's looking for a fresh start or to go to, it's kind of ironic because a fresh start and a more stable franchise doesn't, he would get the fresh start in Detroit, but in terms of ownership and leadership, the Pistons seem to be all over the place. So at least, though, it feels like if a guy with Connelly's cachet came in, he would be the lead man. And I feel like he's got the resume that would definitely appeal to a guy like Tom Gores, who's all about looking for those proven track records, even if it hasn't worked for him with his coaching hires. The guys he's gone for as coaches have had success before they got to Detroit. The issue is they don't have as much success when they get to Detroit, but that's another matter. So I could see, like I said on Twitter, like this is the guy I would go after if there is even a slither of chance. Like there is a tiny realistic chance. Like I don't know. That guy's just got a proven track record, and I would go after him. The other name, which Stein mentioned, which as you can see is in the title of the video here, was JJ Redick. So Sean wrote in his piece for Detroit Bad Boys, another name to monitor is former player and current professional podcaster and media star JJ Redick. This wouldn't be for the head coaching position, though, and could instead be a position in the front office. In the event he has any interest in a move to basketball operations. Then Sean later says, this is not uncommon. This is not an uncommon feeler that former players send out to organizations as they are looking to get a foothold into organizational leadership. So like, I think the idea like of JJ Redick actually becoming president of basketball operations is extremely small. But I think you've seen JJ mentioned in the Hornets coaching thing, which I believe I saw he was a finalist or one of the final two. And, you know, we've seen Chauncey Billups do like similar stuff before he got the head coaching position in Portland. So I think Tyshawn Prince, another ex-Piston, obviously he did some stuff in the Memphis front office. And I believe, I'm not sure exactly where he is now, but, you know, it's common for players if they're trying to, you know, maneuver their way into the front office or that management side of things to go for these interviews to get their name out there for it to circulate in the media. And it was also noted here that Redick's former agent is current Pistons chairman, Arn Talon. So to me, I don't think there's any chance JJ Redick is the president of basketball operations. I think this is purely JJ Redick going through the process to get an experience, to get his name out there, and to get a feel for, you know, being in this environment and what it's going to take to land a job in a front office or to even get a feel if he wants to do this and be a part of something like this. So I think it's more of a PR thing. I think, you know, I'd be shocked if JJ Redick was with the Pistons, but you never know. So the other name that was mentioned just quickly from Stein was Dennis Lindsay, who's currently with the Mavs. I think he's been there the past 2 seasons, and he was the GM of the Jazz for 10 years prior. So when you think about that decade, you've got Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Gordon Hayward. I think you might even have the tail end of kind of that Andre Karolinko team with Darren Williams and we're going back ages there, maybe Carlos Boozer. But like that sort of era of the Jazz, he was around as a GM for that. Now, there's some of the new candidates we heard about. Let me know in the comments who you would like of those candidates. But the second talking point here, as you can see, is who is a front runner for the Pistons president of basketball operations job. And Kevin O'Connor wrote a piece over the past couple of days. He was talking about the Bucks and the Pacers, but within the piece, he wrote about kind of what's going on in Milwaukee with the leadership there and, you know, their future post this season, because it kind of feels like they're going to lose to the Pacers in the first round. And KOC said in his article that league sources tell me there's a real possibility that John Horst will take the gig in Detroit. John Horst, currently the president of basketball operations with the Bucks. He's been there for 10, 11 years. He took over, I believe, a few years ago. But KOC later noted that he kind of had a question here saying, why would Horst leave the Bucks for the league's worst team? And he responded himself by saying he's a Michigan native who got his start working in the NBA as a front office assistant with the Pistons. So there's that tie there. And then he later said in his 16 years with the Bucks, Horst has risen up the ranks, but his power has dwindled in recent years. And he cites a couple of interesting notes here. One area is he goes, Giannis Antetokounmpo was way more or less able to choose Adrian Griffin to be the Bucks head coach last summer, even though Horst wanted Nick Nurse. And then upon the firing of Adrian Griffin, supposedly ownership of the Bucks chose Doc Rivers, whereas John Horst wanted Warriors assistant Kenny Atkinson. So very interesting. And I mean, those are just two areas that KOC kind of cites as Horst kind of losing some of that power. And, the first thing I saw here is that if John Horst does become the president of basketball operations with the Pistons and gets the job, I mean, obviously the Pistons won't get Nick Nurse, but Kenny Atkinson, he seems like a guy that could really fit well with this team as head coach. He's very well known for his tenure with the Brooklyn Nets and kind of galvanizing that team of D'Angelo Russell, Spencer Dinwiddie, Joe Harris, Karis LeVert. They had some young talent there. And Kenny Atkinson is well known for kind of bringing that Nets team from the bottom of the standings and getting them to the playoffs in, I believe it's 2019, in like the 7th or 6th seed, and just developing that young talent. Atkinson obviously got fired by the Nets the next season when they had KD and that kind of thing. But very interesting tie there because I believe Atkinson would be a really good coach for this team. Obviously, this is forecasting a lot because John Horst isn't even in the president of basketball operations position. But I just found that interesting because Monty's job has been something that we have been told will be decided by whoever is in charge of basketball operations. So, yeah, just something to think about. And that's kind of all I have. So let me know who you would like the Pistons to go after for that president of basketball operations position. As I said, Tim Connelly, I feel like that would be a home run if the Pistons could get him. I'm just going off his track record, but he's a guy who's been a part of a winning culture and developed winning teams. So, and same with John Horst, but yeah, let me know your thoughts. And then, until any more news drops or that kind of thing, as always, go Pistons.